Hi, this is Kerry Lantold. I'd like to talk a little bit about RequireJS. RequireJS is a module loader for JavaScript files, and it loads them in an asynchronous fashion. It's really a client-side implementation of the AMD pattern, or asynchronous module definition. Let's go ahead and load up a TextMate project here. So I've created one script reference, and that's to the RequireJS library right here. And if we run the app, this is what we get, just the text that I put in before we began the session. Now, as is convention, you use the data-main attribute of the script tag that references the RequireJS library. And here you insert your first module name. And by convention, RequireJS library will load the file main.js. And it's using file names as convention. So let's go ahead and create main.js. And here we go. And just to make sure that it is doing something, we'll put in the hello world. Refresh, and we get hello world. Perfect. It is working. So you can see that it went ahead and loaded up that file right after RequireJS loaded and executed it. Now we want to go ahead and create our first module. So main.js was really just a JavaScript file with one alert line. But let's go ahead and really create a module. The require method is provided by RequireJS. The two primary methods you'll use are require and define. Now we want to go ahead and create a module that has a dependency on jQuery, for example. So we're going to use the require method that RequireJS provides. The first parameter that we're going to use for require is an array of dependency names, or array of modules. I'm going to type jQuery there. Our next parameter will be an anonymous function taking in the parameter of the module inside this array. So then we will complete that. So again, this is an array of modules that are to be loaded and provided as inputs to this anonymous function for this module. So jQuery is mapping to the $, which is pretty common. So where's jQuery coming from actually? How does it get there? Well, if we come back to our main web page, that data-main attribute, we're returning to that. Wherever this is located, and I could have put in a path reference, wherever you store it, that becomes the root of your modules. Since in this example I have them all at the root of the project, well, the root of the project becomes the root for the modules. So when we come back here to this main.js file and we're asking for jQuery, it's going to simply look for jQuery.js. Don't forget, you can't include the .js because it's really asking for a module name. And by convention, it will use the file name without the extension as the module name. So now I can go ahead and use jQuery, and I have an ID of output in my HTML. And let's go ahead and write some content to that HTML. Hello world, this is my first module. Okay, close that. Come back to our web page, refresh it, and here we go. Hello world, this is my first module. And notice that jQuery did load. There's no other way that we would have found the ID without jQuery in this case. So now what if we want to decouple this code even further? And what I mean by that is, let's take this text that we're outputting to our HTML and say that we want that to be a dependency itself. We want some other system, something else to provide that content. So we'll call it message. All right, so where's that coming from? Well, somehow we're going to have to pass it in as a parameter to this anonymous function. And how does the message get mapped to this message parameter? We need to provide it as a dependency. So we'll call it message. So where's it getting that? Well, if you remember, based on convention, it's the file name. So let's go ahead and create a new file called message.js. And here we're going to define a new module. So we're going to define, and the first parameter is going to be the name of the module. However, since we're using the conventions of file name, we can easily exclude it. If I wanted to have a dependency on jQuery for this, I could have, or any other dependency. In this small example, all I want to do is create my anonymous function and return the message. So I'll say return hello world. This is my message module. Okay. Now, if all goes well, refresh. Hello world, this is my message module. So as we can see back in main.js, we're asking for the message module to be loaded, the result of it to be passed in as the message parameter, and that then to be used as the HTML content for what we're outputting to the output ID. And that's exactly what happened. All very easy. Now I can just as easily define other modules here, but this will not work. If I were to return this here, another module, and we'll refresh the screen, notice this is my message module. Nothing came up. It didn't change at all. That's because how is message.js supposed to differentiate this module from this module? It can't, because we've asked it to already look at the file name, and it did it. But what if we go ahead and use that first parameter we mentioned just a moment ago, and I'll say another module. Okay, right there. Now if we come back to main.js and say, now I also want another module, pass that in, another module, and then let's say I just append it here, another module. Now let's see if that works. If I can get my tabbing right. Here we go. Hello world, this is my message module, another module. You can see I didn't include any spaces there, but try that again. There we go. And sure enough, it worked. So you can see there are a couple ways of defining these modules. One, I can define the module without a name, it'll pick it up from the file name. Another is to actually define the name itself. You include the name as that first parameter, and it was picked up. So it's about how you want to manage your files. Do you want to manage as is kind of customary, and this technology is new. These patterns are really pretty new for the client side. But what is seeming that people are doing is defining one module per file. But if you don't want to, you can do it like this. And in fact, if you use a package manager or kind of package zipper where it compresses all, concatenates all the files, minimizes all the files, you're going to need to use something like this, because how else would you differentiate one anonymous function from another? You'd have to use the file name. So that is an example of how we can define modules and then consume modules as dependencies, and have RequireJS manage all this for us and make sure it loads all these dependencies in the right order when we need them. Thanks very much. This is Kerry Lantolt, and look forward to your feedback. Thank you.